More than 25 years ago, a piece of land in Taylor, Texas was reportedly given to the city with the understanding that it would become a park for local children. Today, that same land has been sold for about $10 million to make way for a data center. Now, before we get started, none of us are lawyers, judges, or land use experts. We're simply three concerned and curious citizens of the great state of Texas, trying to understand what happened and sharing the questions it has raised for us. Some people see this as smart economic development. Others see it as breaking a promise. This week, we're talking about what happens when communities change, whether governments should be able to revisit old decisions, and how much trust citizens should place in promises made by public officials.
Most of us have dealt with situations where something technically was handled correctly, but it still felt like it missed the point of what was actually promised. That's what makes this story bigger than one piece of land in Taylor. A city receives a property that many believed would become a public park, and decades later, it's sold to a major development project instead. Even if it's legal, it raised a harder question. What kind of precedent does this set for how institutions treat long term promises? Because once public trust erodes, it's not just about one park or one deal. It becomes about whether people can believe what their cities, schools, and governments say in the first place. Now we're talking about the difference between what's allowed and what protects the integrity of the systems that we all rely on.
When I hear a story like this, I immediately jump to both the fine print and the bigger picture. I've spent years reading contracts and legal documents, so I understand the importance of details and how much they matter. But trust matters too. In Taylor, Texas, that land that was reportedly intended for their children's park has now been sold for a data center. Whether that's legal may be one question, but whether it's right is another. Today, we're discussing whether governments should honor the original intent behind agreements and whether the spirit of a promise matters as much as the letter of the law. Welcome to Two Millennials and Mom.
I'm Callie.
I'm Cole.
I'm Mom.
So we have seen this. We've all kind of stumbled upon this article going out and circulating in the news from various sources and various different perspectives. But really quick, the long and the short of it is Taylor, Texas, which I believe is just outside of Austin, is it not? A piece of land in 1999, 87.97 acres of land was deeded to the city by a local farmer. Well, I guess technically not the city, to the Texas Parks and Recreation Department, which is Foundation, yes. He saw that all of these kids were playing and they needed a place to play. And so he said, "Hey, I'm going to sell this land for $10, this 80, almost 88 acres, to the city so that kids have a spot to go hang out." It's changed hands multiple times to the city, to the county, to all of these different various government entities, and most recently was sold to Blueprint Development, BBP, to the tune of $10 million, and now is being developed into a data center 500 feet from all of these homes, most of which this is a town of, I want to say, like 16 or 17,000 people total. And so most of which are original owners of this land and long-term residents that have grown up playing in that park. And they remember the farmer and they remember this all being given to the city. And now there's some upheaval about it as to what makes sense. And does the city have an obligation? Does the county have an obligation to uphold the original spirit of the agreement?
It's kind of interesting because I think it gets down to, well, and one person has filed suit and lost and now is moving forward on that. And we've talked about the difference of who do you sue here? Are you, you know, are you suing who the farmer deeded it to, which is the Texas Parks and Wildlife Recreation Foundation, even though they got rid of it? They gave it to another foundation who gave it to somebody else who then gave it to Taylor. So who do you
Yeah.
sue?
Well, I mean, from the legal perspective, these waters are already extremely muddy. So
Yeah.
the intent
Oh, yeah.
was to build a park for the kids. The information we have is that it was deeded to this foundation for like $10.99 with a stipulation in the deed that the land would be used for a park. Doesn't necessarily say who was supposed to build that park, but that it was intended for a public use park.
But nothing that I've seen even says so much as like, "Hey, I want a jungle gym put up," or anything. It's just, "This is a park." And so it's not
Well, and you
defined.
start thinking about that, 87 acres isn't your normal, park in a neighborhood. That's a big area.
That's a big area.
So it can't just be jungle gyms and
Walking
Yeah,
paths.
it's
swings.
basketball courts, baseball fields, soccer fields,
Yeah.
Is it? Or
playgrounds.
is it just, "Hey, this isn't going to be developed so that these kids can play. It's just green space."
Oh,
I mean, maybe that was the intent too. It's hard to say.
It's not
yeah.
defined.
So
Now, regardless of that not being defined, the condition in the deed is to be held in trust for use in a park. Doesn't seem like any park has ever been created or established there, at least not
of
from
any
the
kind.
information that we've been given.
Yeah,
Yeah.
in 27 years. And nobody from everything that I've gathered has said, "Hey, you guys said you were building a park. Where's our park?"
I mean, how many people knew?
Yeah.
It's a good question. So the person who sued was a neighbor or is a neighbor. And it apparently is an area where that's an older neighborhood with older people in it, so they're definitely concerned with the use that's gonna come from it and what that's going to do to their values and what they taxes that they have to pay and all that, especially if these people are on a fixed income.
Well, and I think that there's more to it than that even. They're worried about the health repercussions of having all of this electricity being added to their grid, and we know Texas is its own electrical grid that I have no idea how they fared during the major storm of 2021, like, what did that look like? What did that mean? And so they're worried about that and contamination of the ground and soil and all of these things, and everybody's like, that isn't really an issue here. We don't think.
Yeah. I mean, there are certainly some projects that could be going in there where I would have much greater concerns over environmental risk. Are there environmental impacts of data centers? Absolutely. There's environmental impacts of everything you do, but it's not a pipeline. It's not a fracking station. It's not a gas plant. It's
I
not a
mean,
chemical manufacturing facility.
in the research that we did, data centers do take up a lot of electricity, but they don't have huge emission. They don't have large employee bases so that you've got lots more traffic there than you would have had, without it. But the big thing really isn't even some kind of hazard. It's really
Space.
just the space and the
Noise
electric part
pollution.
of it and the noise pollution, which could be, in some regards, mitigated,
Yeah,
depending if
here's the
they
thing. The noise
wanted to.
pollution doesn't come from the data centers. It comes from the diesel generators that are backups.
True. So, it it's it's very interesting how this is coming up. I mean, there's a lot of people who are really against these data centers, but the person who did the suing said, "Hey, I'm not suing that company for money. I'm
We just
This
want
is
the land
supposed to be."
back.
Yeah, this is supposed to be a park. That's what it was dedicated for. That's how it was given. And you do have to question, I mean, if he gave it for $10 30 years ago and they sold it for 10,000,000, you know, this year,
It's pretty good ROI.
that's pretty good ROI. I mean, I was thinking inflation value, but dang.
I mean, land probably has inflated. Well, maybe not quite that much, but because you weren't getting 90 acres in 99 for $10. But
Yeah.
what's the stipulations on okay, you're deeded this piece of property with the stipulation that this is what that property is supposed to be used for. How do you sell it? Does that stipulation carry over to the next owner?
I mean, do you have
because
to
that's what
write
the
it in?
foundation did. Though, excuse me, they granted it to someone else, who then sold it to someone else, who then sold it to the city. Was my understanding.
Do you have to write it in that it can't be sold? I mean, how does this work? If a city starts going bankrupt and starts selling off their assets and they're like, "Hey, we have a big plot of land and we can get some money for it," can they sell it at all?
And how long does that last? I mean, is it
Yeah. Forever?
26 years or 30 years or 50 years?
Yeah.
And
What
and
happens a
does it
hundred years from now when nobody remembers the deeding of this
Farmers.
Yeah,
property? Everything's digital, and that old trust document, that old deed, is gone.
yeah.
Are they no longer liable for that promise? Since nobody living at that point had any idea that that's what it was intended for. And this is just me playing devil's advocate here. Like, I
I
don't
mean,
know.
but it's a good question. I mean, and and we talked about and did just a little bit of research. It depending on what that trust deed said, should it have reverted back to the family if they weren't going to use it? How did they manage to move it from entity to entity without involving the heirs and successors of the guy who donated it?
Do heirs and
How
successors even exist?
yeah. How stringent were the terms in this deed or the terms of this trust? Slap a sign in the middle of the field, say this is now Taylor Data Center Park, and fulfill the requirements of said deed?
If nobody uses the park ever, can they eventually say, "Hey, we're gonna turn it into something that actually makes more sense, that will get
Oh,
Yeah, can
used?"
they use the proceeds of this sale and say, "Hey, we're gonna build a park somewhere else with this $10 million," and that fulfill the condition?
that makes me wonder, what if they made it a park and said, "This is gonna be a park for 6 months, and that will fulfill the intent of this deed, and then we can do whatever we want to with it. We don't have to do improvements, we don't have to do anything." I mean, would that be a deal?
I'm just saying, if they knock down Eureka and put a data center there, I'm gonna be pretty salty
Why?
because it's a nice park that everybody gets to use. It's lovely to have something like that for the community.
It is lovely to have that for the community.
Raising funds and change and all of this to build that park.
Yeah. The people who got out and worked together to
Before
put
my
all of
time.
the stuff together.
Mhm.
That's funny that you remember that. I'd forgotten that, but yeah, it was
Yeah.
a big civic thing to put it all together.
But my question, Cole, becomes, what are you gonna do about it? You gonna go to city hall meetings? You gonna go
Sure, why not?
protest?
Why
I
not?
mean, I just
What right
wonder.
do you have to do that though?
I'm a member of the community. I live within the city limits.
Taxpayer.
It's public property. Yeah. I pay their salaries.
I don't know if you would legally have any standing on it.
I mean,
Sure,
everything that
I
we're
would.
seeing is that the people who actually brought this suit forward don't have, like, the part of the reason that they have all been turned away and denied these requests is because they aren't family, they aren't heirs. If they were heirs of the guy who had donated the parkland in the first place, they would have a much better chance of having an opportunity to stop this.
But I think it also comes down to maybe it is legal, but does that make it right?
Does it make it wrong?
Since those are both subjective,
Yeah.
What if the new company does build a park? I mean, with 87 acres, what if the data center does? What if they take a couple of acres and build a park there?
I mean,
Would
I think that
that
that would speak to
meet
some
the
pretty
intent?
goodwill.
sure,
I
but
mean,
then some stockholder can sue them for using money for something other than generating profit.
well, this is true too.
That's a PR campaign at best. But I don't know. I'm wondering about integrity, and I'm wondering about intention. If if this farmer donated this park to whoever it was, let's say just for grins here that donated it to the mayor at the time. Are the next 36 mayors of this town held to that same
Mhm.
standard of this is what so and so agreed to? Does their
Yeah.
party affiliation make any difference? Well, he was a Democrat and I'm a Republican, so I don't have to stand by that. Never mind. Like, how does
And
that
this is
work?
where, to me, it gets kind of muddy, and where maybe I think a mistake was made with this agreement, not deeding it directly to the city with that condition and deeding it to the foundation. Because what's to stop the foundation from doing exactly what they did, giving it to someone else who's now apparently no longer bound by these conditions?
Well, and Texas in and of itself is one of the worst states in the entire country when it comes to public lands. Texas has almost none in comparison to every other state. It's crazy how little of it is.
I thought Texas had some of the biggest park systems in the States.
They do, but
Not as a
they don't,
percentage.
not as a percentage, and they don't own them. Most of them are leased. Texas has been set up this way for decades. We have almost no public lands. Approximately 96% of all land in Texas is privately owned. So 4 to 5% of the state has public land. That includes national forests, national parks, and state-owned properties. 1.9% is accounted for by federal land of Texas total acreage. And that includes Big Bend and Guadalupe Mountains National Parks, as well as a couple of others. I mean, but when you're talking about public lands, Texas is, I believe, the worst. Pretty close. Rhode Island is the worst. Texas
Yeah,
is
but
number
that's because
45
Rhode
out of
Island is
50.
like 500 square feet.
Started to say, you could
Still, the percentage is there. Rhode Island, Kansas,
They have a
Nebraska,
bench
Iowa. Oh, yeah. And so then if you look at some of the states that have more public land, like Alaska is 96% public land. Only
because it's
4% is.
uninhabitable.
Sure, but Nevada is the same way. Utah, 75.2% of all land is public land. Like, it's wild
Because it's
driving around
largely uninhabitable. It's desert.
Idaho, Oregon, Arizona, Wyoming, California even is 52.1% public land.
oh,
I don't think your uninhabitable applies to all. Some, sure, but and just because it's uninhabitable doesn't mean it's not ownable, you know? There are plenty of places in Texas that are quote unquote uninhabitable the same way, and yet we still own it. Various people do. I don't know. I just think that we've got to take into consideration what the spirit of the agreement is and be realistic with that. And maybe that is, I mean, we've talked about the Constitution before. This is a living, breathing document that's meant to ebb and flow and change as times around it change. How can you not apply that same kind of line of thinking to something like this? Hey, this is what makes the most sense for today, but is it still going to in 100 years? I don't know.
So does that mean that by selling the land, if they use that $10 million to build a park somewhere else, that they have held up their end of the bargain, that they've met the spirit of the agreement?
I don't know.
I
I'm
mean,
I
sure.
what's the phrasing of the agreement? I'm donating this land so that the city can build a park. That's pretty vague. To me, sell the land, use the profit to build a park somewhere else. That's meeting the agreement to the letter and
no,
in
that's a
spirit.
really good point.
Well, let me say this, the deed itself that was unearthed by the media looking at all of this and going back to when it was originally deeded, the almost 88 acres was deeded to the Parks Department or whatever. It's 29 pages. So it's not just a quick like, "Hey, by the way, park." Like,
Not just a
Yeah,
letter to the city that says, "Hey, here we go."
27 pages of that is copy and paste legalese.
you're right. You're totally right, but that legalese still means something.
Sure.
What it means, I'm not one to weigh in there,
Yeah.
but
I think it's just super curious, and we don't know if there really are any heirs to this person who donated, right?
right. None of that has been publicly reported. Just Farmer Bland that deeded this land. I mean, I just think that we've got to be realistic on practicality of this. Like, all of a sudden, let's say that Austin continues to expand, which we know it's doing. Is park the best use case? Is it being used by anybody? Is it just convenient because that's what we know and that's what we're used to? Like, what actually makes sense here? How does this get decided? Who decides?
I think I keep going back to the fact that nobody's done anything with this land for nearly 30 years. And I mean, it sounds like it's just sat there and nobody's really accommodated what it was intended for. And I keep asking myself in my head, why has nobody done this? Do we just not have the money to build the park? Again, that's
Now they've got
87
10
acres.
million.
Well, you didn't beforehand. You just had the land.
Sure. So now fill your end of the bargain and build a park.
Right. Do they write that in as a stipulation to the sale to these people who are providing this data center, who are building, hey, we'll sell you this land, but it was intended to be a park. We haven't made it a priority, and now it's your turn. You want the land? This is part of it.
Mm, that would be
I mean,
interesting.
it's a little late for that now,
Yes, agreed. But
but when the city sold the land, did they know that this condition in the deed existed?
isn't that their job?
That would be the title
Regardless of whether
company's
it's their
job.
job or not, did they know?
Yeah.
Ignorance is not an
I'm
excuse.
not saying it's an excuse, but maybe that's what led to the situation. I'm not
That's
excusing the action.
that's part of your due diligence in a transaction like this. That all has
Uh,
to be discussed and looked directly upon and mitigated
I
one way or the
agree.
other.
I work in an industry where due diligence is one of the foremost priorities for anyone that I work with. Nobody does it.
Right, but if you don't do
Mm,
your due diligence, does that make it wrong or right?
but
Uh,
normally, when you're talking
that's not what
real
I'm
estate,
arguing.
when you're doing real estate, normally there's a title company involved that's looking for all of this. So that brings up a really good question about why wasn't any of this unearthed? Why did
Raised.
it come down to, because even if you went from the data center company to the last owner, you would still, a title company is still going to be looking back to see, because you want to know that you have a clean deed. So that's a really interesting question as to why has this never come up in the changing of hands so many
Well,
times?
I expect it didn't come up in this most recent one because it's changed hands so many times.
I mean,
Because
but
now that original deed is not what they're even looking at anymore.
you guys remember
Do you think it
those
has followed through to the fellowship ownership?
I think there's a possibility there. Yeah.
it makes me
Well,
think
They're
of
since
looking
they
those
for,
had to dig to find the original, it doesn't sound like it.
It makes me think of those white elephant parties, right, at Christmas. Like, hey, if it changes hands more than 2 times, now it's frozen. Like, if this deed changes hands so many times, now all of those stipulations are null and void. Like, how does that work? And who gets to decide? And I mean, do
The
you
deed
just
does.
pass it around?
It has to be written in the deed.
Right, but do
I
you just
started to say, holy cow, that means that some of the houses we're all living in,
yeah.
all of a sudden they get frozen. It just, I mean, it's a wild idea that all of this is going on and that the city seems to be kind of hands off about it.
Well, and that's one of
What are
the
they
big
supposed to do?
draws.
Not generate $10 million in revenue for property that hasn't been used in 30 years?
Hasn't been used or hasn't been used to somebody's classification of use. Like, again, subjective.
I I would love to go back and see the original deed and read through that, and I haven't done that to see what really is stipulated, how it was given, and what were the rules, and what happened, and are there heirs, and what happens if there aren't any heirs to, you know, there's just a lot of questions on this that make it interesting.
I mean, but at the same time, I feel like you've also gotta take into consideration, like, whenever you're no good deed goes unpunished, right? So whenever you're sitting here saying, "Hey, I wanna deed this land over to the city for the benefit of kids so that they can have a park, but I have to make this all airtight and I have to spend all of this money." It's $10 worth of land that I'm giving to them, like, 90 acres, 88 acres, like, at what point do you say that the ROI isn't there for putting together an airtight deed and document to put this in a trust so that it is exactly explicitly used however your wishes to stipulate before you
30 years
say,
down the line.
it's not even worth it. Never mind. I'm not even going to bother.
And that kinda makes some sense sometimes.
I mean, then all of a sudden you're de incentivizing people to do anything good.
Yeah.
It puts a whole nother spin on no good deed.
We have some friends who have some land that they inherited, Cole, that they had intended to build on, and now then the codes have changed so much now that they're spending more than the land was probably worth that they inherited just to be able to use it. And so
That's
over
the
that
story of Yellowstone.
that one to you.
It cost them more than they were making and they couldn't maintain it, right? I mean, it's crazy,
It's a little more complex than that, but the gist, yeah.
generally speaking. I mean, and at what point do we prioritize commercial growth over everything else? Well, we're going to make $10 million off of selling this land that we promised we'd turn into a park that we haven't turned into a park. Well, we can't do that because we promised we'd make it a park,
I
even
I
though
mean,
we're
guess
that's
maybe
desperately
if I was
needing.
a member of the city of Taylor, I would have probably wanted a little bit more transparency before all of this started. But what are you gonna use that $10 million for? Are my kids gonna get a better education now? Are we gonna get some of these potholes filled? Is our
Do you
water quality going to improve?
do you put it up for a vote? Hey, this is our city. This is our cumulative area, land, value. So we all have to decide as a group. We've decided that we want to change course and we don't want it to be a park that we've never insisted on it being for 27 years. So everybody
If
gets
you
to
start
decide
doing
via
that though,
vote.
you bog down the system more than it already is though. That's the whole point of having an executive like a mayor or a president is you say, "Okay, we're gonna vote for this person to be the one to make decisions. We're gonna vote for this group of people to be the one to make decisions." Yeah, maybe big decisions, maybe really, really crazy important ones, we ask everybody, but if the mayor has to get a vote every time he wants to do something for the city, what's the point of having a mayor?
Right, but where's that threshold? 10 million bucks
Sure.
is big or small. It depends on how you look at it, you know?
I
I
mean,
mean, I
I
think you
get it.
really have to look at this point to see, is this economic development, and how does that economic development pay? And does it pay to the benefit of all of the residents, or does it in some way diminish some of that?
But that's the thing. You're never going to please everybody. You're never going to have any situation where every single resident says, yes, this is the best idea and I'm going to use it to its fullest potential. You can't.
So what do you think the solution here is? Just I mean, you have this one person who said, "I know this was supposed to be a park, and I have the document that says it was supposed to be a park." And then you've got the city going, "It's $10 million."
Yeah. I
Who
mean,
wins?
whoever you voted into office to make those choices in the first place, which is why, even on a small scale, local level, all of your votes matter. You have to put
More.
your trust.
They
Yeah.
matter so much more on those levels.
Yeah. I mean, you've got to put all of that trust in that local government to say, hey, you're going to do and see what the best benefit for our society at present day is and make those moves. I trust you to do that.
But I think that comes back down to it. Is the economic development the benefit? And does it outweigh this original idea?
Again, is that not capitalism at its finest? Commercialization of whatever? Like money wins? Greed
I
is the
don't
root of
know.
all evil? Like how do you I can't I'm so on the fence here. Like, how do you
Mhm.
justify any of this one way or the other at
Yeah,
all?
who do you root for?
Yeah. Yeah.
The kids. Duh.
Always, every time, no matter what, over everything else?
In general, yes.
Is a park gonna make that much difference?
Maybe,
Does
maybe
it
not.
matter? Is it for the benefit of children? We should probably do it.
but should probably isn't should.
But
Must.
if you say that, are you do you think that I mean, it comes back down to it, is the park better for the kids or the economic development better for their kids? Which
Well, I mean, that's a good question. You're right. That's the right way to think about it. What advantage does the data center give to these kids? How much tax revenue will it provide?
I mean, again, I think that's
How
iffy
much?
because they haven't done any of the zoning that's required. They haven't done any of the permits that are required. The city hasn't made an agreement, I don't think, with this data center. So we don't even know if there is going to be any significant revenue that comes from this. They may give them so many incentives that it all washes away.
Sure, that's the question.
Again, I don't know which way to root.
I don't think you can pick someone to root for without all of the information.
Yeah.
I just think that's foolish, personally.
I mean, and what's gonna happen when here and we've seen it with pretty much every other thing. Do you guys remember Blu-ray DVDs and CDs? Like, these are the coolest thing, and everybody's gonna translate to using these as the method of operation, right? Mode of operation until they got phased out too. What happens when data centers aren't relevant anymore? And you could sit here
Tear
and
it
say,
down, build a park.
"Yeah." I mean, it just you can sit here and say, "Oh, Callie, data centers are never gonna go out of style," but everything does. That's how time works.
I
I don't know.
guess. Mm, interesting question. We'll have to watch and see what happens.
Uh, It's just crazy to me. I just I just wonder about as the world evolves, big, small, federal, international, local, like, as everything changes, who gets to decide what the obligations from however many years ago are applied present day?
I
How?
mean, don't we already see that going on in some regards? You can look at clean energy and the things that we thought even 5 or 10 years ago were important with clean energy, now we're kind of being tossed to the side. And I mean, even if you look at the Iran agreement that Obama made, that then you got it here. I mean, it's the same amount of time.
Yeah.
And we can't decide on if it was good or bad or the same or different or who wins.
And again, everything is so politically charged and polarizing. Everything is just such a debate.
Not sure on this one, you guys.
Yeah. I mean, isn't that like kind of the whole thing? Like part of what has had such an impact on the influx of people coming to Texas is the way that Texas doesn't have super strict zoning laws and building laws and codes and things like this. Like you've got all of these corporations coming in saying, "Oh, we'll go there because that's way more convenient for us." There are fewer rules and standards to live by, like, to some extent, I think that that's a great thing, but also, on the other hand, you end up in situations like this that say, "What is more important?
Yeah.
Is this a good thing or is this a bad thing disguised?" I don't know.
I mean, maybe it's not either. Maybe it just is.
Maybe. I mean, and maybe it's bad for some people and great for others, like,
Exactly. It's not necessarily just right or wrong, black or white.
to live in the gray again.
Okay. Call. You have a weird thought that's making your sister a little bit crazy.
Also true.
Yeah. Yeah, this is an oldie but a goodie in my opinion. This is a debate started amongst me and several of my friends years ago that surprisingly popped up with a new set of colleagues and friends last night. I you guys brought home some really good food that I really enjoyed last night, but it was a Cuban sandwich. And my favorite is a Reuben sandwich. So that got me thinking and I asked my colleagues at work. I said, "Hey, what's your favorite kind of sandwich?" And I got some answers from a couple of people and then I got one that basically was what qualifies as a sandwich. and I immediately knew that we were going downhill from here because
Off the rails.
yeah, and my words were, I really would like to say that I'm not the one who started this for the record, but I would be perjuring myself if I did. And I asked it. I asked the question, is a hot dog a sandwich?
No. A hot dog is a freaking
Yes.
hot dog.
A Reuben is a Reuben, not a sandwich.
A Reuben is a type of sandwich.
It's called a
Oh, a
Reuben
hot dog is a
sandwich.
type of sandwich too.
No, a hot
It's
dog is a
never
type of
called a
hot dog.
sandwich. It's a hot dog. A
The
Reuben
state of New York
sandwich.
defines it as a sandwich.
Under what definition?
What do you
Seriously?
mean? Yes,
Yes, it does. I believe the state of California also defines it as a sandwich. But we know that
because
those
it's a
people are
sandwich.
we know that New Yorkers
Okay.
and Californians are nuts, so we cannot trust them.
Not only that, here's my question. What the hell is the government doing defining what is a sandwich and what isn't?
It has to
Because
do
they
with
have to
tax
determine how
codes.
they can tax things.
You tax it because it's food.
Prepared food.
Right, but different foods are taxed differently.
But the fact that it's prepared or not prepared, that's what makes it taxable or not. If you go and order a pizza, that's taxable. If you go and buy a loaf of bread, that's not taxable.
I don't know. I got one excerpt from one page from a New York State tax revenue thing, whatever it was. I don't have all of the details. I do not know the New York State tax code by heart. They explicitly had a tax on sandwiches, and those sandwiches included hot dogs and sausages on buns.
That
Ex-
must have been an exception.
There was a list of exceptions. Hot dog was on it, as this counts as a sandwich. It explicitly states it. Anyways, before we're here for the rest of eternity bickering about whether or not a hot dog is a sandwich,
It's not.
in the process of this conversation, one of my colleagues said that he was a strict adherent to the cube rule. And I had never heard of this. And this is the
Stupid.
cube rule of food identification. And it is based on where your starch is structurally as part of the food item determines what kind of food it is. And I have determined that I am, for anyone who is familiar with an alignment chart in Dungeons and Dragons, I am a radical food anarchist. Pop-Tarts are sandwiches
Because
Lies.
they have 2 pieces of bread,
because
dough.
it is something wrapped in bread.
Then wouldn't ravioli be a sandwich too?
Yes.
No, it's pasta. It's ravioli.
Technically,
Just
that
because it's
wouldn't
pasta,
be.
you can make a spaghetti sandwich. Not a sandwich anymore because it has spaghetti in it.
I mean,
But it's only a spaghetti sandwich if it has 2 pieces of bread with it.
yeah.
Right. Pop-Tarts are also ravioli.
Oh my God.
No.
The Hot Dog and Sausage Council of the United States also agrees that a hot dog is not a sandwich. They're
wrong.
They are
We know councils that are wrong all the time. We just talked about a city council that is quite obviously wrong.
How do you really feel, Cole?
Anyways, I was introduced to this website, The Cube Rule. It is hysterical, in my opinion. If you want a good laugh and you're not Callie, go check it out. It's just cuberule.com.
Okay, but hold on.
You'll get a great kick out of it.
This also means that a taco is a sandwich. It is not.
Yes.
A burrito is a sandwich. It is not.
It
A
is.
quesadilla is a sandwich. It is not.
Wait.
Definitely.
Nuts.
Go back to what the cube rule is.
No.
The cube rule is a food identification rule based on where your structural starches are located on your food item. If it is just the bottom of the cube, it's toast. If it is on the top and the bottom, sandwich. If it is on all 4 sides, sushi.
Oh my God.
If it's on 5 sides and not the top, bread bowl.
Wait, that would mean that a burrito is sushi,
No, it's wrapped all the way around.
just like sushi
5
on all the sides.
Except sushi isn't on all sides. It's on 4 sides of the cube, not 6.
Most of the sushi I have is round. There's no sides.
So this is cube as in like in a square cube.
Correct.
Uh,
Relative. It's relative. Sandwiches aren't cubes either. Toast is not a square.
I'll put a link in the show notes, but just know that I'm doing it begrudgingly. Also, I was talking to somebody else about this today after you and I spoke about it, and I think that this is a valid argument. If Steve Harvey were to ask on Family Feud to name the top sandwiches and they go out and ask 100 people, hot dogs aren't coming up.
That's
Nobody's going
because
to
hot
say
dogs suck. Nobody's favorite sandwich is a hot dog.
that's not what the question is. Name sandwiches. Nobody's going to come up and say a Chicago style hot dog because a hot dog is not a sandwich. And if it doesn't happen on Family Feud, it doesn't exist.
I'm not
That's a
sure that it
horrible
wouldn't.
argument because the question would be, what's your favorite kind of sandwich? Because that's what Family Feud does.
I'm just afraid, Callie. I mean, I've seen a lot of answers on Family Feud. I would not put money that a hot dog wouldn't show up on that question.
Well, now I have
I
to
think
call
she's
Steve
right.
and get him to put this on the next episode. And I'm going to be very, very thrilled to show you guys the clip when everybody's like, a hot dog? What? That's not a sandwich.
Okay, let's just say, assuming that a sandwich is whatever you define a sandwich as, Callie, what would your favorite one be? I don't know that I can answer that question.
I like
But
lots of sandwiches.
You said a
Yeah, but what's your
Reuben.
favorite?
Yes, I agree. My favorite sandwich is a leftover turkey sandwich with mayonnaise after Thanksgiving. That's my favorite sandwich.
Ugh.
Oh, or a grilled cheese. Nope, I'm changing. A
mean-
grilled cheese.
That's much more reasonable.
I love
my
a good
opinion.
turkey sandwich, though. I love a good turkey
It's
sandwich.
fine.
I mean, here's the deal.
You said my favorite, not yours.
Cole makes a
True.
really spectacular grilled cheese sandwich.
I make a spectacular grilled chease sandwich, too.
I still think Dad makes the best.
Dad makes good ones. That's because he
changed
loves
'em.
all of the, he loves the butter on them. I mean, I grew up eating scrambled egg sandwiches. I like a turkey sandwich. I like a club sandwich.
No, but if you could only pick one to ever eat again for the rest of your life,
I couldn't. I couldn't
you
choose.
have to.
No, I do not. You
A
can't
grilled
make
cheese.
me.
A grilled cheese, for sure.
God.
Like, I would miss grilled cheeses, but it would definitely be Reuben's forever.
Here's the thing. A grilled cheese, I can make any kind of different ways. You put picanha on yours. I like to put turkey on mine or chicken breast on mine, like lunch meat. I can put any kind of spinach or things like that. Pesto.
Bacon jam.
I'll let you get by with the spinach, but once you start adding proteins to it, I'm not so sure it can really be classified as a grilled cheese anymore.
Well, then fine. I won't
Like,
make
I
one
know
for
that
you.
I put picanha on mine still.
Well, maybe we'll take that to Steve Harvey too. Can you have a grilled cheese with protein? I mean,
Steve, I'm sorry,
technically,
man.
boo. Wait a minute.
My bad, dude.
Cheese is a protein. So you can't say when you start putting protein on it because you cannot have a grilled
cheese
cheese.
is not generally classified as a high protein source relative to meat.
And a hot dog is not normally classified as a sandwich.
It is literally legally classified as a sandwich. You are wrong.
So are you. Go to a good news story.
Oh, my Lord.
Oh, my Lord is right. I just don't even understand what to say right now. I'm just, the fact that you think that this is reasonable blows my mind.
Is a meatball sub a sandwich or not?
It's a sub. A sub is a type of
Submarine
sandwich.
sandwich is the name.
I was agreeing with you. Sit back down in your chair. Calm it down, buddy. Calm it down. Oh my gosh. Settle. Okay, so a good news story. So if you're current on this podcast, we spoke last week about school resource officers in Texas schools, and there was a heavy focus on issues that had been seen and were being reported on by the New York Times and the San Antonio Express News. And we actually got a really great comment by John on YouTube, who is a school resource officer and has been for the last 12 years. And it made mom cry, and it was very, very sweet. He had a really, really good, valid piece of the conversation to add to it. So if you want to go
And you
look
could
at
tell
John's
that he had
comment,
listened.
for
Yeah.
sure. It was awesome. And so we were talking about this article that was very much pointing out all of these problems and these inappropriate instances in our personal opinions about officers in schools who had responded really poorly. And we happened to see, I showed it to mom when we were working on the edit for that episode. I happened to see a situation, a scenario in Arkansas at the end of May, so just a few weeks ago, that was a 28-year-old man who led police officers on a high-speed chase for a while through a town in Arkansas that ended with his SUV going airborne, crashing into a telephone pole, and come to find out they had 4 young children, starting at the age of 4 months old, unrestrained inside of this vehicle that he had no license to operate, and he had all kinds of other charges that were levied against him because he was not a good dude and doing inappropriate things, and there were 4 children in the car with him as he's going through this high-speed chase. And I will put a link to a video of the dash cam videos that were collected from these officers who were chasing him. But the long and the short of it is the 4-month-old baby was ejected during the crash. The 3 other children were
And
removed.
survived.
All survived relatively unharmed. The police officers that
Were
responded that were,
stupendous.
and that might be an understatement. We
Yeah.
were absolutely floored and blown away and impressed and grateful for the actions of these couple of officers who showed up to not only address this man who was breaking the law over and over and over again, but to care for these 4 children who their greatest concern, I'd say she was what, maybe 6, 5 or 6,
Mhm.
who were asking questions like, "Are we going to jail?" And the police officers looked at her and said, "No, sweetie, you didn't do anything wrong. I just wanna make sure you're okay." And they were incredible officers, and
Yeah.
we
They're the
wanted to
kind you
commend
want
them.
in your school as your school resource source officer, because we talked about training, and we talked about the kind of person that you want to be in that, and that's why Callie was showing me this, and when you look at these men, you think, "That's who I want with my kids." Because they were so stupendous. When that baby was thrown out and the first patrol car stopped, that's the first thing he did. He ran to that child and I mean, he literally grabbed her and drug her out of the way of anything because there were wires down and
Power
everything.
lines.
And he holds her the whole time you see all of the video, that officer has that baby in his hands, holding her, comforting her, taking care of her. And I guess the one that really got Callie was when they've pulled the 4th child out, the 2nd officer had picked him up and he ran over to his patrol car, and before he set that baby down, he felt the hood of his car to see if it was too hot to set him on the car. And there were comments, the comments were amazing, but there was a comment about, "That's a dad. A Only a dad would check the hood,
Would
the
know
heat
to
on
think
the
about
hood."
that.
Yeah. It was just with all of the stuff going on, with all of the danger and as upset as
Chaos.
they had to be with the man driving the car, they did such an amazing job of taking care of those children and comforting them. We kind of laughed because there's one point where one of the officers is he's feeling each of the kids and he's going, "Are you okay?
Are
Are
you
you hurt?
sure?
Does
Are you
does
sure?
anything Yeah, are you really sure?" And he's just checking them out to make sure there's no there's no blood, there's no broken ribs, there's no broken bones, and they're just And really, it is kind of amazing.
Oh,
They
yeah.
weren't secured in any way, and this car literally flips over and then slams into a pole,
It's a hell of a crash.
and
Every
and
single child walked away.
they weren't hurt. I mean, minor injuries. They did take them to the hospital to make sure that they were okay, but it's just it was really amazing to see 2 police officers exemplify that level.
Professionalism and kindness and compassion in moments of chaos and fear. And
Mhm,
I think that it very much was a resounding example of the types of officers that John is speaking about in his comment on the YouTube video, and the experience that he has had and that he shared, the insights that he shared about his experience as a resource officer. He's been a police officer for 22 years, I think, and has been a school resource officer for 12 or 14, I believe. And it it was it was so cool to have his insight and to have him share that insight to say, "Hey, I hear you, and some of the instances that you're talking about were completely inappropriate, but you have to remember that that's not all of them, and this is
Not even a
something
majority.
that's not even a majority, and
yeah,
this is something that we need to be talking about and that needs to be addressed, but we need to address it in the context of reality, not the context of fear-mongering in an article to specifically highlight all of these really gross,
Cops are
negligent
bad because
situations."
cops aren't bad. Bad cops are,
Yeah.
but this is a great example of great cops being
great
great.
cops.
Yeah. Being great. I mean, mom, you keep saying, like, "Those are the kind of cops that you want with your kids. Those are the kind of cops that you want with your kids." And I don't disagree with you, but more than that, those are the kind of cops that I want.
Mhm,
Those are the kind of cops that I want as cops,
yeah,
that are serving their communities and that every single one of us can be grateful for and respectful of because they're there with the best of
Because
intentions
they earned it.
because they've earned it.
yeah.
So,
Yeah, I wish I had been able to communicate that better in that podcast, that those are the kind of people and I if I gave the impression that I felt like all cops are bad, then that's really wrong 'cause I don't agree with that. We have relatives that are been sheriffs for all of their lives and friends that have been police officers, so I don't think that all police officers are bad. We definitely discussed some bad situations and things that I don't think should have happened, but at the same time, you see these 2 men who were just unbelievable in their reaction. I mean, it was so commendable.
and I think that we saw the same thing in some of the examples that John was giving in his comment
Mhm,
about what it is that they're doing and how they're showing up for these kids, and even just specifically about how for every one episode that is a bad cop being a bad cop, you're missing that's the one that's making headlines, but you're missing
mhm.
dozens, hundreds of other situations of really great men and women in these positions of power and of responsibility, doing really, really good work and great jobs that are also commendable. Just putting it all into perspective. So, thank you for your
Yeah.
comment, John. We certainly appreciate your listen, but more than that, your insights and sharing those with us. So, thank you.
Love you
Love you
guys.
guys.
Love you guys.